While you were at Gallaudet University, your close friend, ally and mentor, Dorothy Miles, died.
Dot. I knew her from the time she came back from America, and we had a really close relationship. She taught me a lot. She showed me how a deaf person can aim to reach a higher level. Plus her spiritual qualities, her art, her creativity. These things were rare in Britain at the time. So I thought, when I came back, I was looking forward to working with her on the area of deaf culture. But then she was gone.
Let's go back to 1993. You were in Washington, D.C. in America, and the National Association of the Deaf asked you to write an article for a publication, imagining the deaf world in 20 years' time, in 2013. You wrote a piece called The Deafhood Papers, Volume 1. That was a completely new word you'd coined. How did it come to you? Was it a moment of inspiration?
It's strange because at the time I was just typing away, trying to imagine the future, what the deaf world would look like, typing away, and the word deafhood just popped up out of nowhere. I thought, where did that come from? Was it a deaf god passing things down to me? Or the spirit of a deaf person who died? So I thought, where's that from? What does it mean? I didn't know what it meant, but it felt right. There was something right about it.
Why did you think this new word felt right when it popped into your head? Did you realise what it meant at the time?
No, it was only later on I realised how just right it was. Who knows our lives? Who controls us? What God manipulates us and charts our paths? Why did I just come up with that word? It could have been Dot, who died just before that, passing it down to me to pass on to others. Because the Deafhood Papers, Volume 1, was written as if by a person looking back. But interesting, not looking back from 2013. It was about looking back from beyond 2013. I wrote it like a double look back. Like somebody in 2033 looking back to 2013, then back to 1993. So the Deafhood Papers felt like a historical word linked to the history of deaf people, something like that. It's the first time I've been asked that question.
So you were just typing away and out came this word, deafhood, and you spent the next 10 years searching for its meaning. Is that right?
Okay, it's hard to summarise, you understand. I mean, it's linked to research into deaf culture. So let me explain about deaf culture research. That was asking older deaf people to give me information about their history, their experiences at deaf schools, deaf clubs, their deep roots, the heritage of deaf culture. They told me that, and I published that in a book, right? So, fine, I went through that process and I realised that, of course, these experiences do embody deaf culture, but deaf culture itself has been oppressed and damaged through oralism and through the control and oppression of the missioners. So everybody says, oh, deaf culture's fantastic, it's terrific and all that, but sorry, that's not true. Deaf culture is wonderful, wonderful, but it's been damaged. So first, we have to respect that heritage and embrace it to ourselves and give it the love it deserves. But we also have to accept that it can be improved. The deaf world is not perfect. So we need another word to reflect our vision, our aspirations, our dreams. Then one day, that word, deafhood, occurred to me. It seemed to fit the evidence of what I was looking at. So I put it in my writing. And there's a big difference between deafhood and deaf culture. Deafhood is something deaf people have deep down inside them, a small seed, and that can grow or it can shrink again. If you're oppressed, it shrinks. Do you understand? It's like your mind, it can expand or it can shrink back. So I thought, that can help me. And then the question of how we explain to the deaf community, the deaf culture is fantastic, beautiful, we love and respect it, but we have to improve it and get it into better shape. And that's through a process of deafhood, examining ourselves, discussing and understanding what's happened to us through oppression.
You said you researched it, but how exactly did you go about this research, trying to identify what it was?
Okay. We have to go back to deaf culture. It's not linked, they're separate. So deaf culture is about deaf schools, about oralism. So when deaf children were not allowed to develop properly, deaf teachers were banned, which was the worst thing that happened. Banning sign language was bad enough. That was terrible, but at least deaf children could still sign to each other in secret, so it carried on. But when all the deaf teachers were fired and not replaced, deaf children had no role models, no one to pass on their heritage. I'll talk about that later. The same when deaf people grew up and went to the deaf clubs, where the missioners controlled everything and kept them down. That became linked to the class system. Those whose parents had a bit of money, those people got on well with the missioners. So their sons would get seats on the board, places on the committee. And their families would make donations to the club. So the committees became quite elitist, full of people from that kind of background. Whereas those who were more grassroots from rough deaf families hardly ever got onto the board. It's interesting how I realised it was linked to the class system. So they looked down on the deaf working class. They labelled them as the stupid deaf. Outside, on the bus or under the lamppost, they wouldn't sign. They'd keep their hands down, whereas the rough grassroots deaf people didn't give a monkeys. They'd sign away quite shamelessly. They were brave. And I thought this was amazing, how deaf culture was linked to the class system, and deaf pride was linked to class. So in terms of deafhood, working class people had a big, strong core inside them, and middle class people's deafhood was much more shrunken and self-abasing, you see? And there are links to other oppressed minorities like black people, feminists and others. I learned how they challenged oppression. I could see where there were similarities between us or where there were some differences. The deaf world's been too narrow and inward-looking. We need to broaden our horizons much more.
Can I ask, do you mean that all deaf people already have deafhood inside them? Or do you think there are some who don't have it yet, but have the potential of going on to acquire it? Can you tell me a bit more?
Well, if you look at me, mainstream educated, never met a deaf person, there was still a little thing deep inside me. It had always been there, a little seed deep down inside me. And we all have that. Hard of hearing, people who were born hard of hearing, they have it too, before they get involved in the deaf world. You know that after the war, they were split off from the deaf world. Hearing aids split them off, the oralists split them. Before that time, deafened people, when they were about 12 or something, they would be sent to deaf schools, into the deaf world. Hard of hearing too. So we were all one community. So each of us will have our own journey. But now, talking about those who've got that small seed inside them, growing up, like me, in mainstream, it's always there. It's hard to explain what it is, but it's there.
Do you think oralism, it has influenced and changed the deaf community? So what's the relevance of oralism to deafhood, for good or ill? Can you explain that?
That's another point. It's interesting, Tessa, how many people think that oralism is something benevolent and well-meaning, that they're just trying to help deaf people. Well, I'm sorry, I have to tell you, that's not true. Maybe on the level of individual teachers who are naive and have been brainwashed on their training courses. They take on board what they're taught, blissfully ignorant, and then they bring this into the classroom. But those at the top of the whole system, they know. Let me tell you a story, okay? Something that happened to me. Before See Here, before I started working TV with See Here, I wrote an article about my mainstream upbringing, how bad it was. I felt I had a duty to tell the world about this. It was a TV programme for disabled people. They read my article and they wanted to film 2 half-hour programmes about it. That was pretty good. This was 1980, remember? So they brought in a researcher, hearing, who didn't know anything. He read my article and said to me, "Oh, oralists can't be that bad. They mean well." I said, "No, that's not true." I said it was my programme, so shut up. Anyway, he wanted to go to all sorts of different places. So one day, we went to this oralist teacher training college in Oxford. 3 of us, him, me, and an interpreter. So we arrived there, went in the door, and we'd hardly got in when this bloke came up to us. He knew me from when I'd been on NUD lobbies outside his meetings. He came straight up to us, and before we even said, "Good morning," he said, "Haha, you've lost now." So we all looked at each other. I said, "Good morning to you too, but what are you talking about?" He said, "Haha, next year we're going to pass a law where we can put deaf children where you'll never find them." That was what he said. So I turned to the researcher and I said, "You see, there you go." And that was the devious way they did it. That was what was going on. They were trying to... That law was the 1981 Education Act after the Warnock Report. That was their aim, to put deaf children where we would never find them. And now about 95% of deaf children are in mainstream schools and we can't find them. He was right. So there you are.
You say you feel there are people out there working to eradicate deafness and deaf people. What about now the huge spread of cochlear implants and genetic research, trying to get rid of faulty genes? Do you think that's going to mean a big reduction in the number of deaf people in the future?
Well, I think we've lost the cochlear implant battle. We've lost that. The more important thing is to make sure deaf children have access to sign language and deaf culture. But I feel optimistic if we focus on that, how we promote that and persuade hearing people. We can save ourselves, but we have to show the positive side of deaf life and deaf people's achievements, the deaf gain concept, how both hearing and deaf people can benefit from it. The negative focus on hearing impaired has to refocus on deaf gain, all the positive features. There are lots of positives and we can record them. In America, they've been collecting that kind of evidence. So let's do that, because it's so tedious to have to keep battling all the time. That's positive. We can take pride in what we've achieved.
You said that when you were doing all your research into deafhood, there were 3 deaf women who you felt really inspired you. Who were they?
Well, those 3. Okay, so the first was Dot Miles, of course. Dot. I could talk about her forever. Then there was Marie Phillip. And the other one was Gloria Pullen. Both very similar. Strong working class deaf people from deaf families. Working class, poor families. But they stayed strongly connected to their roots. I told you before about that group who would openly sign out in public, didn't give monkeys. That's where they came from. Plus, if I asked them questions like, why did this happen? Why did deaf people do that? If I wasn't sure about anything, they were both happy to tell me. It was like what I call cultural wisdom. Not cultural knowledge, cultural wisdom. Something you just looked at and thought, wow, that's beautiful. So that's the 3 deaf women. Without them, I couldn't have written the book.
In 2003, you finally did publish your book. Understanding Deaf Culture in Search of Deafhood. It's quite a weighty tome, 500 pages. When you look back on it now, do you feel satisfied with what you achieved?
It's interesting. When I started studying for my PhD, my aim was not to get a degree and then rest on my laurels. I wasn't interested in that. My aim was the book. But I'm not somebody who's that confident. Maybe I looked like that, always happy to talk, full of confidence, but inside I'm not a confident person. I'm good at fighting for other people, but when it comes to fighting for myself, I'm crap. So that did help my confidence to know I had a PhD. I felt it psychologically, so that was helpful. Then when the book came out, that gave me an extra boost as a person.
In 2009, at Bristol University, you set up a new course, a degree course in Deafhood Studies. But in 2013, the centre closed down. Yet in America, Scandinavia, Japan, Ireland and elsewhere, there's been a mushrooming of interest in Deafhood Studies workshops. Britain actually seems really slow to catch up. Why do you think that is?
There are really two parts to that. The first is about how the university treated us. It was shameful. Shame on them. The CDS, the Centre for Deaf Studies in Bristol, did a wonderful job for 35 years. Wonderful work. And they just destroyed it, bombed it, shot it down, killed it. But connected with that, recently, one university in Edinburgh, Heriot-Watt University, they've started to do some research. They've got funding for some research projects. There's a deaf educator from Belgium called Annelies Custers. She's been brought in to set up and develop that. And maybe in future they'll start up some courses again. Not necessarily labelled as Deafhood, but the ideas will stay alive through that, hopefully. So there's that, hopefully. We can dream about Edinburgh becoming the new Bristol, let's hope. So there's that. And the second half of your question, Deafhood has really taken off and spread round the world, you're right. The book's been translated into Japanese, German, Spanish, Portuguese, others. Yet here, it's been so-so, the praise. I'm used to seeing the deaf community in England being apathetic when it comes to sitting down to discuss ideas. Maybe it's my fault as well. I don't know, but that's my best judgment of the situation. So how do we change it? I don't know. Or do I just carry on patiently and hope that young deaf people or others will come along to workshops in Britain? Or that people will volunteer to translate the book into sign language and put it on the internet? Whatever.
Now let's talk about you, Paddy Ladd. After all your research and discoveries in the field of deafhood, I'd like to ask you how you see your own deafhood. What do you think your own deafhood is?
Well, if you look at my life up to the age of 18, it was hell. Hell. It was just horrible. Just one big negative, as I explained before. Then, after that, you had the period when I thought I was in heaven, in the hippie world, but there were still barriers. I could never fully immerse myself in that, just switch off and be myself. I couldn't. Yes, there were shared ideas, but that inner feeling of complete ease where you can just totally relax and feel at home, that you're completely where you belong, that wasn't there. So then I met deaf people and they taught me so many things. Really, we should have another time when I can tell you how much the deaf community taught me. If I hadn't joined the deaf world, I think I would be lost, wandering aimlessly. You know you want to fit in. You say to people, sorry, could you repeat what you just said, please? You work hard, trying to understand everything, then you become restricted, isolated, stuck at home. I can't imagine, it's impossible to imagine how my life would have turned out if I'd gone in that direction. How you lie to yourself, how you put up with that situation without having something positive. So that saved my life. How many beautiful people, how many beautiful, beautiful deaf people I've met. It's been wonderful. You know, it's interesting. I was talking to somebody recently and I asked them, as a hearing person, how many people they knew who had died. I was interested to know, so they started to count up. Oh, my family, a few, one or two friends, quite small numbers. And I looked at them and I thought, I know 1,000 people who've died. What a contrast. Incredible. Wow. It quite shook me. I don't mean I knew them all well or they were friends, but people I knew in the deaf community, people from older generations. I knew them. I remembered their faces. I'd met them. I'd talked to them briefly. All those people I knew who died. I knew them. They were part of me. Part of me. Do you get it? That's powerful. Hearing people don't have that to the same extent. So what does that tell us? What does that tell us both about our lives? What's special or different? So that, all those people, that saved my life as well. Do you understand?
You've talked about going through hell, all the struggles and the suffering. Then you discovered Deafhood. Do you feel that's what makes you want to help others? Do you feel that what you've been through is what makes you want to pass on something to other deaf people, to do something to make the world a better place?
Who knows? You mean as a result of my own suffering when I was growing up? Did that help me to make the world a better place? Well, there's definitely a link. There is a link, but it's interesting. Does that mean everybody who suffers in childhood goes on to help the world? No, it doesn't. So why? I don't know. I don't know at all. That's why I say I don't know myself. If I knew myself, then it would be easier to answer your question. But was it worth it? Well, if I could go back, if I could live my time again, would I pick a residential school like Mary Hare? Because I had that option. No. No, because I wouldn't have had that access to the hippie world. I'd have been one of those straight-laced, stuffy types. Become an accountant or something. Oh my God. I can't imagine what that would have been like. So your life is what it is. You have to accept it with all the positives and negatives. It's that simple. It's all one complicated, interconnected thing. Sorry, I don't know if I captured that question properly.
Now, about your personal life. In your book, you mentioned partners that you've had who've supported you, and you thanked them for that support. But you haven't had a permanent relationship. How do you feel about that? Is that a great disappointment to you?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. Yes, it's sad. I look back on my relationships. They all have their purpose. They're all part of the journey. But in recent times, there hasn't been much. And that's hard. It's hard. I think we need two people. We need somebody to be our companion, to support each other. You know, like in my situation, with all my work and responsibilities, I've struggled. I'm crap at technology and crap at anything practical. So we do need a balance. So, yes, I'm disappointed about that. I do look, but nothing's happening. So I won't give up hope. I won't give up. But, yeah, drat, you asked me that question.
And what about children? You've always fought for the rights of deaf children, their equality, to improve their education, but you don't have children of your own. Do you feel that's something missing in your life?
I always say, no, let's start again. People have asked me that question, yes. And I always say, I have 11,000 children, thank you very much. 11,000 deaf children. I've got plenty. That's my life's focus. But the reason for not having children? I believe strongly in the feminist idea that a man should be a proper father. He should dedicate himself to that 100%. Most men can't achieve that. Not for me to say or criticise, but if I was a 50% father, I couldn't do that. I'd feel too guilty. My commitment to the deaf community would always be there. I'd always be focused on that. So my focus on my children would be that much less. I couldn't. I'd feel guilty. I couldn't live with myself if I were to do that. But I was in one relationship with a woman who had a deaf child and a hearing child as well. That was wonderful and valuable, incredible and valuable. To be involved in that experience of what it was like for a hearing woman to bring up a deaf child, that was tremendous. That helped me a lot to understand more about their situation, their struggles, their challenges, the emotions, everything. Spun my way out of that one, deflected that particular bullet, ping.
What do you feel you've given to the world?
What a question. How do I get out of answering that? What have I given? I think they'll have to judge that, not me. I just think I'm here to be a good soldier in the Deaf Army. That's all. That's my job. Do my duty. Serve the community. That's it. Leave it to other people to judge.